Hi everyone, welcome to Positive Routines. Today we'll be flowing through yoga poses specifically targeted for back pain. This is a relatively short flow, it's about 10 minutes or so, and hopefully you can incorporate it into your day. We'll start in a child's pose. Take your big toes to touch and draw your knees towards the edges of the mat. Let your forehead sink down into the mat and reach your fingertips out towards the top edge. Moving into a few rounds of Ujjayi breath, inhaling in through the nose and exhaling out through the nose, constricting the back of your throat. This creates a vocal, heavy quality to your breath that creates some internal heat, otherwise known as tapas. On your next inhale, briefly moving through tabletop, curl your toes under and push back to a downward facing dog. Bring your feet about hips distance apart with a micro bend in your knees and push the earth away with your hands and your feet. You can bend one knee at a time, maybe shake your head out yes and no. You can bend both knees at a time. And then briefly finding stillness in your downward facing dog. Inhale, step your feet towards your fingers, moving into ragdoll. Again, your feet are about hips distance, maybe even more apart. Your feet are parallel towards the top of the mat, and with a little bend in your knees, taking opposite hand to opposite elbow. Let your head and torso hang nice and heavy, and allow the bend to come from your hips rather than your stomach. Releasing your fingers, toe heel your feet together, and inhale, lift up halfway, taking your hands to your shins and squeezing your shoulder blades together. Inhale, slowly roll all the way up to standing. Draw your arms up overhead, and then exhale, pull your hands through to heart center. You can take a moment here to set an intention for your class, getting really centered and present on your mat. And then when you're ready, inhale, draw your fingers up overhead, and exhale, pull your palms through the heart center. Again, inhale, arms come all the way up. Exhale, push palm into palm. On your next inhale, step your right leg behind you and set up for warrior two. Finding the knife edge of your back foot, stacking your left knee over your ankle, and maybe even bending and straightening that front leg a couple of times. When you're ready, draw your arms in line with your legs. Take your gaze out past your front fingers and draw your shoulders down and away from your ears, drawing them together at your back body. Gaze stays constant past your fingers. On an exhale, hinging forward for extended side angle pose. Your front elbow rests gently on your knee. And you can extend your right fingertips up towards the ceiling if that feels okay. You can also take your hand to your hip. And if it's okay on your neck, take your gaze up towards your fingers. Inhale, reverse triangle, stretching through the front leg. And on an exhale, hinge forward, reaching as far as your hips allows. Yeah, and then your left finger comes down to your shin, a block, your ankle. And your right fingertips reach up towards the ceiling. Again, depending on how your neck feels, you can take your gaze up towards your fingers. You can also take your fingers to your right hip. Yeah, making sure to breathe, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And then on an inhale, rising up, star pose, reaching up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, warrior two to the back of the room. Again, finding the knife edge of your back foot, bending and straightening that front leg a couple of times. And then when you're ready, finding stillness in your warrior two. Your arms are parallel to your legs. You can look back and make sure your back arm is stacking over your leg. And knit your front ribs together. And gaze comes out past your front hand. Exhale, extended side angle. And draw your left fingers up towards the ceiling. Again, your right forearm is resting gently on your thigh. Avoid putting all of your weight into that forearm. Breathing, inhale, reverse triangle, and then exhale, you'll hinge forward, reaching as far as you can, bumping that back hip towards the wall. And then bringing your hand towards your shin, a block, or your ankle. And getting a chest opener in the left side of the upper chest and rib cage. Reaching arms up towards the ceiling. You can even add in a little bit of a back bend here. Couple more breaths. Inhale, you'll rise up, star pose. Exhale, lunge and cartwheel towards the front of the mat. High plank for just a moment. From your high plank, bend both of your knees to touch the mat, and then exhale, slowly lower down to your belly. Taking your hands just underneath your shoulders, bending your elbows to 90 degrees, and inhale, baby cobra. Either stay here for a couple of breaths, or you can take cobra pose, reaching up through the chest. And then exhale, take your cheek down to the mat, taking a rest for just a moment. And then setting up for locust pose. You can either interlace your fingers behind you, or on an inhale, drawing everything up and in towards your center, reaching your fingers for the back room, pointing and flexing through your toes, taking your gaze out past the front of the mat. Take one more inhale. Exhale, release to the other cheek. Constructive rest for just a moment. And then on your next inhale, setting up for bow pose, reaching for your ankles, starting with your forehead down to the mat. And then inhale, rising up with a little micro bend in your elbows. Flexing your toes here to open up the chest even more, taking your gaze up. And then exhale, release everything down to the mat. You can push back to child's pose. And then we'll make our way to a downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, inhale your right foot behind you. And exhale, knee to right wrist, setting up for pigeon. On an inhale, open up through the chest. And then as you exhale, taking it down to the mat, sleeping pigeon, meditating pigeon. Let your forehead rest down. Starting to move into a few rounds of deep inhales and exhales. Starting to pull the energy inward. Maybe sending your exhales to your right hip if there's any tension. And then when you're ready, curl your toes under. Take three-legged dog on the right side. And then we'll move into the left side. Inhale your left foot up towards the ceiling. Exhale, foot to wrist, and we'll take pigeon. Inhale, open it up. And then exhale, taking it down to the mat. Let your forehead sink down into the mat. Move right into that deep relaxation. Letting everything be nice and heavy, taking your attention to the breath, being gentle when thoughts come up. On your next exhale, curl your right toes under, take your left leg behind you, three-legged dog. Briefly coming into downward facing dog, drop your knees down to the mat. And then moving on to your back, hug your knees into your chest for just a moment. Take your hands to the outside edges of your feet. And then slowly rocking back and forth in happy baby. From happy baby, take one more inhale. Taking one more breath. Come back to center, draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself one big hug in, and then exhale. Final relaxation, corpse pose. Letting everything rest down into the mat, taking whatever time you need for rest and relaxation, making this Shavasana your own. Namaste, peace, peace, peace.